Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we talk about the latest news, information and analysis of what's really going on in Russia and the BRICS. Now, my name is Rhod Mackenzie, and today I want to talk about how it seems that the Ukrainians have decided to go on a scorched earth policy as they're losing the conflict with Russia so badly. On August the 13th, the Ukrainians destroyed the pumping station of the Soviet oil pipeline Druzhba that supplies Russian oil to Hungary and Slovakia, so the supplies have now ceased. Now, for the past 3 years, Kiev has continued to receive income from the pumping of Russian oil through this pipeline, and now towards the end of the conflict has decided to go for broke. Plus, it's obvious that the Ukraine is taunting those who provide it with gas and electricity, without which it cannot survive. Now, will Orban's Hungary cut supplies of electricity and gas to Ukraine in retaliation for this act? Well, it depends. The time frame for restoring the pipeline infrastructure is yet to be determined, but it's not going to be immediately. Now, the first to announce the news was the Hungarian Foreign Minister, Peter Szijjártó. He confirmed that Slovakia has also had to cease its oil refining operations. Szijjártó has described the incident as an unacceptable attack on Hungary's energy security. Now, in response, the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Andriy Sybiga, published the following statement on his social media. He said, "From this point on, you may direct your complaints and indeed threats to your friends and associates in Moscow." Yeah, but not very friendly now, is he? Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and contribute to its further development. You can do this by making a small donation by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the video screen under the 3 dots, or by clicking the Buy Me a Coffee link below the video in the credits. Everybody who donates does get a personal thank you from me. Now, according to Pavel Sorokin, the Russian Deputy Energy Minister, Russian specialists are trying everything and using all possible measures to swiftly restore the transformer substation that's required for the operation of the oil pipeline. However, at this time, it's not possible to provide an actual timeline for the resumption of the supplies. I mean, they're still looking at the damage sustained by the Necha linear production and control station of the Druzhba oil pipeline in the Bryansk region of Russia. By the way, the Druzhba pipeline means friendship in Russian. Now, this resulted from a coordinated attack involving US-made HIMARS and MLRS missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. Now, this station is a key hub for oil transportation, with pipelines extending through Belarus and Poland onto Germany, also through Belarus and Ukraine to Hungary, Slovakia and the Czech Republic. However, it should be noted that sanctions have resulted in the interruption of supplies to Poland and Germany, plus the Czech Republic decided to reject purchasing oil from Russia this year. So the main buyers of the Russian oil through the pipeline are Hungary and Slovakia, because they successfully obtained an exemption from EU sanctions in 2022 due to the fact they were landlocked and had limited access to seaports or pipelines to get their supply. Now, the attack on the station occurred on the 13th of August, but oil continued to flow through the pipeline since deliveries from the Necha station to Hungary and Slovakia take up to 5 days. Now, Hungary and Slovakia are heavily reliant on the Russian oil supplied by the Druzhba pipeline, with up to 80% of their oil requirements met through this route, according to Alexander Frolov, who's Director General of the Institute of National Energy in Russia. I mean, in 2024, 4.78 million tons of Russian oil were supplied to Hungary via the southern branch of the pipeline. And this is the most competitive oil offer on the market in terms of price for the oil itself, and it's the cost of delivery. Plus, of course, Russia has the capacity to provide this particular grade of oil, which is Urals heavy sulfur oil, which the refineries in Hungary and Slovakia were built specifically for this type of oil. Now, this type of oil is in high demand due to its great way of making diesel fuel. Now, it's also been noted that Iranian, Venezuelan and Russian oil of this special grade is also currently subject to sanctions. And only within the EU is Hungary and Slovakia are permitted to purchase it, according to Igor Yuskov, who's an analyst at the Russian Financial University and a member of the Russian National Energy Security Fund. Now, should the damage at the Necha station require a protracted period of repair, then Hungary and Slovakia are going to need to source the same grade of oil from an alternative location, or alternatively blend different grades of oil to obtain the raw materials of the required quality, according to the analyst. Now, the severity of the consequences of the loss of Slovakian and Hungarian refineries and their economies will depend on how long the pipeline is going to be out of action. Now, in the event of a fuel shortage and rising prices at the fuel station in these countries, the situation could actually become quite difficult. Now, should only the linear part of the pipeline be damaged, the repair could possibly be completed within a few days. But in the event of the damage to the pumping station itself, the repair process could be lengthier due to the necessity of manufacturing certain of the units. And that's going to increase the cost for the client. Now, the primary concern is to reinstate the linear segment, as other pumping stations may generate the pressure, resulting in a decline in the supply volume. Now, it should also be noticed that in recent years there's been a decline in the number of consumers, means that the pipes are not operating at the full capacity. However, it's worth noting that the shutdown of oil refining in Hungary and Slovakia will not occur simultaneously with the cessation of the pipe pumping through the pipeline. Now, that's because of the fact that refineries normally always have at least several days oil capacity in case of a daily pumping stop. Consequently, the refineries will continue to operate as normal, we hope. Now, the question of whether they will be able to operate at full capacity really actually depends on whether they decide that there's going to be a prolonged shutdown, so they'll go on to slow development. Now, if the Hungarian and Slovakian refineries are confident that the supplies are going to resume, then they could work at full capacity. But if it's apparent that the repairs are going to take a significant amount of time, then they're really going to have to consider not only reducing processing, but finding oil from other sources. Now, it's also worth noting that Hungary and Slovakia generate a surplus of oil products of petrol and diesel in comparison to their domestic consumption. Now, these surpluses are normally sold on to the Ukraine. Now, of course, they're going to be reluctant to export these fuel to the Ukraine, and instead focusing on making sure the demand for oil products is met within Hungary and Slovakia. So the Ukraine is actually going to suffer. The decision to withdraw the supply of fuel to Ukraine, which has been provided by Slovakia, is a rational response to the current circumstances. However, it's not just on the fuel. Hungary and Slovakia can actually kick Ukraine a lot harder with their halt in oil pumping, because Ukraine is significantly dependent on gas and electricity supplies from Hungary and Slovakia. In 2025, this reliance has increased considerably, particularly in the area of electricity. In order to prepare for the heating season, Kiev requires serious amounts of additional gas supplies, and up till now it succeeded in emptying its underground storage facilities to the lowest level of gas ever. According to Expro, the country's gas production will not be able to meet the required volume for the heating season, and Ukraine's going to need to import 1.7 billion cubic meters of gas during the period of August to October. Now, electricity imports to the Ukraine from Hungary and Slovakia were up more than 40% in the first 5 months of 2025. So all Orban's Hungary needs to do is halt the provision of either gas or electricity, and it's going to cause the Ukraine's economy to collapse. Well, it's uncertain whether Hungary and Slovakia will actually do that. I mean, since January the 1st, Ukraine has ceased gas supplies to Hungary, going through the normal Ukrainian gas transit system, and Hungary is now reselling gas that it gets via the Turkish Stream and Balkans pipeline back to Ukraine, and it still makes a profit. So far, no cuts have been made to the electricity, oil products, or gas supplies to Ukraine. But if they were seeking to exert pressure on the Ukraine, it's likely they would have done so by now. However, should the repairs take longer than expected, Hungary and Slovakia are going to look at alternative options, and they've got no gas or electricity spare or fuel, then they're actually going to have to stop supplies to the Ukrainians. Now, Hungary's MOL, who have their Hungarian company with products and refineries in Slovakia too, are now going to try and buy fuel from oil from other sources, and they're going to possibly work from their EU neighbours. Now, the EU has refining capacity that are not currently in use, but do they have the oil? And that's going to be the problem. Now, the issues for Hungary and Slovakia are similar to the problems that the EU has faced over the last few years, and with the insufficient supplies of oil and there. Now, obviously, petrol stations are going to see interruptions in supply, shortages in price rate there. So the problems are now going to have to be solved by importing fuel, but then it's from where? And if you're importing it, then you're not going to be able to export it. So with Slovak and Hungarian refineries incurring losses, they're going to have to look at things. Now, you can get deliveries by sea through the ports in Croatia, where there's two direct oil pipelines. One goes to Serbia and the other one goes to Hungary and then on to Slovakia. But that's time consuming, and it's a matter of, is the right grades of oil going to be available? And if Russia was able to swiftly sort the station out, then fine. But if not, then according to calculations, Orban and Fico are not going to have enough oil or gas or fuel to actually give to anybody else. So that's a share with others. So Ukraine's going to have a big problem. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. And if you want to help me out, make a donation or buy me a coffee. Thanks for seeing.